There was a specific day. You may not have noticed it. It probably looked like nothing. Your cat walked across the room, paused near where you were sitting, and did not immediately leave. Maybe it sat down. Maybe it looked at you for a moment longer than usual. Maybe it blinked slowly and then looked away. To most people, that moment reads as coincidence. The cat happened to be nearby. It was tired. It wanted something. What it actually was a decision. Your cat had been running a process for days, possibly weeks, that you were not aware of. A quiet, systematic evaluation using tools you cannot see, conducted on a timeline you were not told about, toward a conclusion it reached on its own terms entirely. And in that unremarkable moment, the pause, the look, the slow blink, it issued its result. You were safe. This video is about that process, what it involves, what your cat was actually measuring, and what it means that it ended the way it did. Welcome back. If this is your first time here, subscribe before you leave. What you are about to learn has been happening in your presence from the day your cat arrived, and understanding it changes the way you think about every quiet moment between you. Number 1. The assessment begins before you do anything. Most people assume that earning a cat's trust is a matter of behavior. Be calm. Move slowly. Don't force contact. Give it space. These things are not wrong, but they address only a fraction of what your cat is actually evaluating. Cats are what researchers call obligate solitary hunters. Unlike dogs, which evolved in social groups and carry a deep biological bias toward cooperation, cats evolved in conditions where other animals, including other cats, were competitors as often as companions. The question a cat is asking about every new presence in its environment is not whether that presence is friendly. It is whether that presence is predictable. A 2015 review published in the journal Applied Animal Behavior Science identified predictability as the single most significant factor in feline trust formation. Not gentleness, not attention, not food, though food helps at the margins. Predictability. Does this thing behave the same way twice? Does it do what it appears to be doing? Does it occupy space in a way the cat can learn and anticipate? From the moment you entered your cat's life, it began building a model of you. Not a simple model, a detailed one. Your voice. The pitch, the rhythm, the patterns that signal different states. Your movement. How fast? How suddenly? Whether your path through a room tends to arc away or cut toward. Your smell. Your baseline chemistry, how it shifts when you are stressed or ill or tired, what it means when it changes. Your schedule, the sounds that precede your departure, the sequence that follows your return, the regularity of what you do and when. All of this is data, and your cat was collecting it. The time frame for this initial modeling varies by individual animal and by early socialization history. Cats handled regularly by humans between 2 and 7 weeks of age. The critical socialization window identified in studies by Turner and Bateson build models faster and with more tolerance for novelty. Cats with limited early exposure take longer. Some never fully complete the process. But in most domestic cats with a reasonably stable early history, the active evaluation phase runs for roughly 2 to 6 weeks after a new person enters the picture. You were being watched for all of it. Number 2. The 3 things your cat was measuring. The evaluation is not random. Animal behaviorists studying feline social behavior have identified 3 specific dimensions that appear to drive the trust assessment. The first is olfactory consistency. Cats have approximately 200 million scent receptors, roughly 14 times the number in a human nose. and they use them to track information that vision and hearing cannot provide. Your personal sense signature is as unique to your cat as your face is to another human. But what your cat is tracking is not simply that you are you. It is tracking whether you smell the same. A stable scent profile correlates in the animal's perceptual world with a stable state. You smell approximately consistent because your body chemistry is approximately consistent because you are well, not threatened, functioning normally. When your chemistry shifts significantly, stress hormones, illness markers, unfamiliar substances, your cat detects this as a change in its model of you. In the first weeks, your cat is establishing what your baseline actually is. That process requires repeated exposure. Multiple close proximity readings across different times of day and different conditions. Your cat was not sitting near you because it wanted anything. It was gathering data. The second dimension is movement prediction. A 2019 study conducted at Kyoto University, examining how cats respond to human behavior, found that cats were significantly more relaxed around humans whose movements they could anticipate. They did not need the humans to move slowly. They needed the humans to move consistently. This is why cats often seem more comfortable around people who are simply going about their normal routines than around people who are visibly trying to be calm around them. Deliberate calming behavior changes your movement patterns. It makes you less predictable, not more. The cats in the study showed lower stress indicators, lower cortisol, more relaxed body posture, more voluntary approach behavior, with people who simply behaved normally and repeatedly in their presence. You were not auditioned. You were observed. The third dimension is response calibration. Your cat was testing what happens when it does things. Not deliberately, not strategically, but the information was registered regardless. When it moved toward you and you reached for it immediately, that was information. When it sat near you and you let it sit without reacting, that was information. When it vocalized and you responded, or did not respond, or responded in a way that matched the sound, all of it was logged. What the cat was building was a response map, a set of predictions about what you would do given specific stimuli. An animal that cannot predict your responses cannot trust you. Not because you are untrustworthy, but because unpredictability is, at the neurological level, the same as threat. By the end of that assessment period, your cat had a model of you that was detailed enough to make a calculation. Number 3. The moment the calculation resolved. There is a specific behavioral signature that researchers have associated with the shift from assessment to acceptance in domestic cats. It is not dramatic. If you watched it on camera without knowing what it meant, you might not notice it. The cat approaches the person without solicitation, meaning it moves closer without being called, without food being present, without a direct invitation. It orients toward the person. It may sit or lie down within close range. If the person remains still, the cat may close its eyes partially. The slow blink that cat researchers have studied extensively since Karen McComb's work at the University of Sussex identified it as a marker of positive emotional state. What this sequence represents, at the neurological level, is a shift in the cat's risk assessment of you, from unknown variable to known quantity, from potential threat to established safe presence. The slow blink is particularly significant. Closing the eyes, even partially, in the presence of another animal is an act of vulnerability. It suppresses vigilance. In the wild, it is something you do not do around things that might hurt you. When your cat blinked slowly at you, it was not performing affection in the way we might recognize it. It was demonstrating, in the only way available to its neurobiology, that it had assessed the risk you represented and found it acceptable. That is as close as a cat gets to trust. The moment it happened, your cat's behavioral repertoire around you changed. Not all at once, but the shift was real, and it was permanent in a way that matters. Number 4. What changed after that moment? Cats that have completed the trust assessment around a specific human show a consistent set of behavioral differences when that human is present compared to other people. Researchers at the University of Lincoln, studying feline social behavior over extended periods, documented that cats in established trusting relationships with a primary caregiver showed significantly different cortisol profiles when the caregiver was present versus absent. The caregiver's presence, not interaction, simply presence, produced measurable reductions in physiological stress markers. Your cat does not behave the same around you as it does around others. Not because you trained it, and not because it likes you more in any simple sense, but because you have become a regulatory presence in its nervous system. What this looks like in practice. The cat rubs its face on you. This is called bunting. The transfer of scent from glands on the cheeks and forehead. It is not random marking. It is a behavior that, in feline social structure, is reserved for animals the cat has accepted into its scent community. It is telling every other animal that encounters you that you belong to a group it has approved. It is changing how you smell to match how it thinks you should. The cat shows you its belly. The abdomen is the most vulnerable region of a cat's body. Displaying it is not an invitation to touch it. This is a common misreading that ends badly. It is a display of comfort. It is the cat demonstrating that, in your presence, it does not need to protect itself. The cat sleeps near your head. The head is the most important point of contact for scent monitoring. A cat that chooses to sleep close to your face is choosing the position of maximum information access in a moment of maximum vulnerability. Sleep. It is not coincidence. It is the expression of a calculated preference. The cat brings you things. Not often, but when it happens, a toy occasionally is something else entirely. This is behavior that, in wild and feral cat colonies, is associated with the delivery of prey between members of a social group. Your cat is not confused about whether you can hunt. It is placing you in a category of relationship that, in its behavioral vocabulary, involves providing. Each of these behaviors became available to you after that moment, not before. Number 5. What the test could not measure, and why it matters. There is one dimension of the trust assessment that researchers have found difficult to quantify, but that appears consistently in the behavioral data. The cats that form the deepest bonds, the ones that show the strongest secure base effects, the most pronounced physiological regulation in the caregiver's presence, the most elaborate and persistent social behavior toward specific humans, are not simply the cats that found their humans most predictable. They are the cats that found, through the assessment, something else. Researchers use the phrase contingent responsiveness to describe it. The caregiver responds to the cat's signals, not by doing whatever the cat wants, but by noticing, by adjusting, by demonstrating, through repeated behavior over time, that the signals the cat is sending are received and that they produce a meaningful change in what happens next. This is not training. It is a different kind of recognition. Your cat cannot know that you understand it. It cannot know that you think about it, or that you noticed the slow blink and looked it up, or that you read anything about what goes on in the part of the night when you are asleep. None of that is accessible to its assessment process. What is accessible is how you behave, whether you move away when it needs space, whether you let it come to you, whether you respond to its vocalizations with something that matches their pitch and context, rather than something random. Whether the version of you it encounters across days and weeks is recognizable, not because you are performing anything, but because you are actually present. The test it ran was not looking for love. It was looking for reliability, and the fact that it found enough reliability to issue the result it did. That morning or afternoon or evening when it walked toward you without being called and sat down nearby and blinked slowly in your direction is not something you earned in any single moment. It is something you built day by day without knowing you were building it. The pause, the look, the blink. That was not nothing. That was the end of a process your cat ran to its conclusion, on its own terms, with its own instruments, according to its own standards. And what it found, when it was done, was that you were worth the finding. Tell me in the comments, do you remember the first time your cat came to you without being called? The first time it chose to be near you? I want to hear it. I read everything. I'll see you in the next one.